and divide by 2 of your parents. You inherit discrete characteristics. So we could say that an individual will inherit discrete characteristics. This actually follows something called the particulate hypothesis. These discrete characteristics are carried in, or you could say carried by, genes.
That is a particular hypothesis.
That people will inherit like definitive genes from their parents that gives them their discrete characteristics, right? Mendel was the first to describe this. And he used garden peas to do this description. Nice. Now there's some key terms that I want to go over before I start describing Mendel's stuff, like his operation. So I'm going to go over some vocab. And one of the first terms I want to talk about is the term character. Characters would be specific features. And these features can be inherited. Some good examples of some specific features would be color or height. The term traits describes variations of characters. So traits are variants or variations of characters. Like for instance, with color, we saw that Mendel could either have purple or white garden peas, or you could have tall versus short. So traits are the variations that could be that could exist there. Right? In his pea plants, he identified the sexual organs, the stamen, which is the male part. Of course, it's producing pollen, which is essentially plant sperm. The carpel, which would be your female part, producing the eggs or the ovaries. And some terms that we also need to be aware of is dominant, right, as opposed to recessive. And we should also talk about the word allele at the same time. An allele is going to be different forms of the same gene. Basically an on-off switch. Usually we describe the alleles as being either dominant or recessive. A dominant allele, like big T, a recessive allele like the little t. We could agree that dominant alleles seemingly overpower or overwork, or what it really comes down to is that the big T allele has the potential to make the protein that would cause tallness, or the protein that would cause the purple color. A little t, that protein is not producing the color. So it is usually like an on-off switch, right? And some other terms that we should be familiar with would be homozygous dominant, And there's also heterozygous. And there's also homozygous recessive. It's homozygous, but I'm shortening it. Probably should be aware of this setup. The terms. 2 dominant alleles as opposed to 2 recessive alleles, and then heterozygous would be a mixture of them. Right? The term crossing makes reference to just mating. And then also the term true breeding, which is really important. A true breeding plant is a plant that is exclusively homozygous. So something that is true breeding is going to be homozygous for a particular gene. Good? All good. So here's Mendel's experiment. Probably like the classic experiment that you have to be aware of. He took two true breeding plants, and let's just use T, and we'll talk about tallness. Or your book actually uses P and talks about color of flower, so the one we said with the book, that might be better. True breeding for purple, and then true breeding for white. And he crossed those two. Here's my cross. We would denote this as being the parent generation. Here's your parents. And if we do this cross, what can we expect? They would all be what? What? They'd all be purple. And what about their genotype, though? What about their genetics? They would all be what? What? I'll be heterozygotes? He called this his F1 generation. The F here is standing for Lyell. F-I-L-A or F-I-L-I-A-L, yes. I don't really know what it means. I'm just assuming it's like the first. Is that it?